Yeah. So the first feature of a data warehouse is a subject oriented. It means that it's focused on a big topic. So data warehouse store information about important business area, like sales, customer, or product. It is not a tiny details like your daily transaction. So you can think about of it as a library organized by a major subjects instead of an individual receptor. So this is the first, a feature of a data warehouse is to focus on a bigger topic. Then second feature of a data warehouse is integrated. That means everything fit together. So it pull data from a different sources. Like I mentioned, cells. It could be app, or it should be a portal, and customer database, Excel sheet, CSV, and make sure everything matches. For example, if one system called a product, let's say if one system will enter the product ID as ID hyphen 123, right? Other system, then another call it as a prod, that says it adds some prefix with 123. So what it did, data warehouse fix these differences so that reports are consistent. So that's the reason it is integrated. Even though you have a different product ID or different date format, for example, or even your city, right? Somebody, you can say United States, somebody write full name, the country, somebody write just US. So this kind of fixes can be done by a data warehouse so that every system will be integrated. So and these differences when it come to the report, so that report is very consistent. So this is also one of the features of data warehouse. Everything fit into together, and every system should be very integrated. Third features is that keep history. This is a time variant. Now, unlike your regular database, which is a relational database that might keep only the recent data, like your daily transaction data. So data warehouse store years of historical record. So let business, so that a business compare this year sales data with the last year sales data to track the trend over the time. So this is also give us the benefit. It store the n number of historical data. Third and the fourth key feature of a data warehouse is a non-volatile. So basically, data cannot be changed. So once the data entered into a data warehouse, it usually doesn't get updated or deleted. Instead of it, new data is added on top of it. Like you can example like a pages in a notebook. So this will ensure that reports are a steady, a stay reliable, or a steady and the consistent. I hardly see warehouse in data warehouse that data get changed. Very minimum instances. That means let's suppose example, I in my real time, once the data get approved, right, before you extract the data from and you want to store this data into data warehouse. So in data warehouse, the data will be only get stored after it get approval from the data steward. That means the data analyst can see the current month data. It is okay, then it can data is moved to the data warehouse. That means pure clean data will be moved to the data warehouse. Few occasion we can update the record, or sometimes they ask us to that particular record, but hardly in a year once or twice this kind of a requirement is come. But basically that The key takeover here is that data doesn't change frequently in the data warehouse. It doesn't change actually. It's a non-volatile. And the next one, the feature of a data warehouse, it's a summarized. It's quick. It gives you the quick answer, very ready. So meaning that instead of calculating totals, every time. So data warehouse has to pre-calculated summaries like monthly sales or average customer spending. So reports are run faster. So you can get the summarized data very quickly, and it's a large volume of data. That means it handle massive amount of data. It is more than a way that for a regular database. They are built to store and manage around terabyte of data, even petabyte of data of information very efficiently. That means use volume of data. And the last one is optimized for the analysis. So built for report and not a transaction, meaning unlike the system designed for quick data entry, like ATM transaction, a data warehouse is a structure to quickly answer bigger question like what were our the best selling product for last quarter, which reason have the highest customer growth. So these kind of answer very can be quickly answered by the data warehouse. And even I can say the more key benefit of a data warehouse is a metadata driven. So meaning data about the data. So data warehouse, it keep track of where data comes from, what it means, and how it is processed. Like a label on a file in a cabinet, it helps the user to understand and trust the information. So you can think about a data warehouse is like a super organized file system in a bigger company. Files are grouped by a topic, let's say sales or customer, and it's a integrated, meaning the massive paperwork is standardized into a clear report. And old records are kept, it's not thrown away. Once you know it is filed, the paper are not altered, which is or non-volatile. And just add this, there's more paper on it. Is ready for summarized, right? Like monthly total say, and it large volume. It means that it hold the data years, yearly data. But there are certain retention period where need to be set as per the organization required. So these are the very key features of a data warehouse. First of all, it is subject oriented. It's everything is fit into a one. Then it's a time variant. It's keep the history of data for 25 years, 20 years. It is data cannot be changed. So these are the you can also find some of the differences. The question will become in your interview. What is the difference between database and data warehouse? So this is some of the key top differences you can also tell. So like data warehouse focus on a bigger topic. you know it should be very integrated, everything should be fit together. It keeps historical of a data doesn't get changed. We can get the quick answer where it store the summarize of data, store huge volume of data. So let's move to the next topic. Okay, so before I move to this topic, any questions so far from the previous topic?
Yeah, we are we talked about that we should not delete the data, or we don't delete the data from the data warehouse. So I was just curious that what are the strategies that are followed for archiving the data in the data warehouse?
Yeah, so basically in data warehouse, right, data will be only stored after I mentioned, after it get approved by the data server. There are sometimes person who act as a role of a data analyst, right? He can approve the data. Let's suppose you process something, right? Let's suppose if I give example of a banking. So in India, so you purchase certain, right? Let's suppose example for any kind of a loans. I build a home loans, and every month I will get a CIBIL score, and it get keep updated, right? So somebody it will be there in the between who can just approve these record before until it is reached to the user, right? Your CIBIL score is this one. Somebody has to be approved it by RBI or somebody else. There should be a something some
Raju,
some
Raju,
person is.
sorry to cut you short. Like my question is, um, what if in some for the some compliance reasons we need to archive the data? So my question is, what are the strategies that are followed to archive the data in the warehouse? It is normally it is very off it is very normal to archive the data from the warehouse for the compliance reasons.
Yeah, so basically data, so this is a the not it's not only archival, right? So data warehouse, that's a come into the how data warehouse is used. That is come into the next next session, right? So basically a strategy, if you can find so there are company who are also, there are few strategy we can use like in a banking vertical. What, because every company is not going to use the data warehouse as per the costing wise. So strategy, that means the first is that how many years of historical record that company want to store it. This is one. And second is what is the volume of the data that it can keep process. This is number two. These are the very key feature, these are the key characteristics. And what are the the techniques that is which modeling techniques we have to be used to to store this data. These are the very
Now my
three
question,
essential, yeah, these are the very
yeah,
three essential as a technical terms that we have to be used to store that data in a data warehouse.
no, once data is stored, for example, we are transferring the data, ingesting the data from the OLTP into an OLAP, and the ingestions frequency is every day or every week or every month, whatever. So once the data is ingested into our OLAP systems, and the data is getting into the system, say every month over the period of years, now comes the question of the compliance, and they say that hey, our data should be archived for say after every that is at any given point in time, data beyond 6 years should not be available for the users or should not be available in our data at rest. So my question is, what are the strategies that are followed to archive the data in general in warehouse?
So there, see, it depends upon the company, right? It depends upon the company. What is your requirement? There should not be any specific for archival. It should be your requirement. Let's suppose if I give my example, I can give the data for the 20 months of a historical data. It depends upon the company requirements.
Yeah, I'm not talking of duration. So duration is fine. So duration would depend upon project to project, would depend upon compliance to compliance. That the, for example, if you're following PII or whatever. Huh? So my question is, say, let's say the ask is of 5 years. My question is that after every 5 years, how the data would be archived? That is what my question is.
So, so basically, archive means that means you want to move this data from somebody somewhere else. That is your question. So
Archival,
yeah, archival means
archival
yes.
data.
So these are the archived data on. These are the historical data. So once you keep it the data, that it will be if you want to retain it, doesn't basically not required to retain it. As per the policy of the GDPR or PIR, it should be removed after 7 years in that is some standard in the European Union.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it should not be stored more than year of data as per the rules of the government.
Yeah, my question was not about that. What is GDPR or PI is dictating from from the duration of data brackets, that how long the data should be there in the OLAP. My question was not that. My question was, even if, say, for example, as you said, it is 7 years for most of the cases in the European Union countries. My question is that if it is 7 years, how the data would be archived? That is my question. So, what is the strategies that are followed? So, how the data is archived in the warehouse?
That is, I'm not understand what how data is archived. That means it depends on the company requirement.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, archival, it should be like, what happened in general. So basically, after certain point of a time, you move your data somewhere else, somewhere in your ADLS or some different data store, right? That is the company can understand and do, and they can do, but it depend upon the requirement, I would say. So archival, you can keep the data, but even for in the you can archival it should be somewhere some for some years only. And what strategy is depend upon the company to company. It's not something very standard or very generic that each company can follow. It's not like that. It vary to industry. If I work on a medical domain or healthcare domain, it should be a different where I need to keep the historical data of the customer. If I work on a banking vertical, it should be different for banking vertical. We can also think about the security concerns of it. If I can keep that medical, if somebody can hack, it could be no, it could be problem. So this is basically your question. I would what I understand, it's you are thinking about a data governance point of view. That is something we can discuss later. But what that the archival rules is something, it depend upon the company requirement.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
No, Rajiv, go ahead.
Okay. The next topic is how data warehouse are used. So let's understand this topic. So you can think about you are running a big company with where we have getting that data, tons of data. Let's say sales data, a customer information, website traffic, inventory labels, etc. And all this data is scattered across different places like Excel file, app, and also the databases as well. So data warehouse is a organized storage room where you bring all this data together. Then we need to clean this data, arrange it, and neatly you can easily find what you need. So how company use the data warehouse? Basically it collect that data from a different sources. So basically, data warehouse pull that data from a multiple sources like sales app, your CRM system, your customer survey, or social media. It could be multiple n number of data sources, and it is stored in a one central location. So once this data is get stored, we what we need to do, we can clean and organize this data. That means the data from the source system or the source data, it's come as raw data. So these raw data can be a very messy. Meaning messy means it could be a duplicates, it could be a error, it could be a missing information as well. So data warehouse fixes these issue, all these issue, that is duplicate records or error or missing information. These data warehouse are fixes this issue and sort data into a categories like sales, customer, and the product. and making, data easy to analyze, meaning instead of digging through the spreadsheet, or imply using some tools like dashboard or kind of a report to quickly see the trend, like what product sell best in winter, which customer spend the most, and where the sales is dropping. So that means it making the data easy to analyze. And the fourth is, it help the leaders to make decision. That means it give us the clear picture to the management, where they can take a decision. So basically executives, the higher executive uses data warehouse to make the smart decision, like should we open a new store based on the sales trend in some different region, or something within the same region, what ad are workings, backtracking the customer response. It also help the management to predict the future trends, that is there are AI or machine learning. So like advanced computer uses data warehouse to forecast, what the forecast, like what next quarter a profit rise or fall, which customer might leave for a competitor. So this kind of information, data warehouse can give us, and this is the reason that we have used data warehouse. Things like in a company like imagine you are have to look through 10 different notebooks to find your your notes. So let's say I keep maths in one, uh, other is science is one, and some written on the random pages, so it's a very messy. So what data warehouse can do, it can pull all that data into a different departments like sales, marketing, inventory, or online into a one clean and organized system. This is the one of the features. So all data into a one place, that is a centralized data. Think about if you can see nearby in neighborhood, like there's some called a fresh, the D Mart or Reliance Mart, or the Fresh Mart, a supermarket chain. So it collect that data from the stores in a different cities, or in a mobile app where you can order, uh, where you keep giving the orders, or it's on the online store. So these the data warehouse gather all of it into a one places, so the manager don't need to check five different system. So this is one. So that means data is a centralized. Then we have to be also make the decision very faster. So within a data available and organized, company can get answer quickly and make the smart decision instead of guessing. So let's suppose a manager want, are the people buying more cold drinks in June. With the data warehouse, your manager can see a chart in a second, instead of asking different store, or waiting for the reports or manually checking. So she can get the answer very quickly, like the stock more cold drinks, launch some summer offers, avoid running out of a stock. So this kind of information can very easily can get. Then data warehouse is also improve the data quality and accuracy. As I mentioned, when the data is collected from a different places or different source system, these there are certain kind of a messy duplicates, error, or a spelling error, and different date formats can be the mistake can be handled by a data warehouse. So let's suppose a real life example I can say. So someone can store the some of product like Coke, right? Cold drinks. It can enter the product is Coke, and someone in other store it is mentioned as a Coca-Cola. So data warehouse combine all those product name and corrected, so that both are treated as the same product. So that reports are accurate and it's not confusing. And finally, it's a time saving for employees. That means employer doesn't have to waste the time to gathering data manually from a different system and sending endless email to get report. So in real life, instead of asking your IT guys to run weekly sales report, the store manager open dashboard and see it herself within a very few seconds. It also help it forecasting, that means predicting the future. So because data is a very cleaned in and combined, and company can see the patterns and predict the trends. So in so how it work in real life, these supermarkets look at the 5 years of data and see which products are selling more on which particular month, so that next season they can order more in advance as well, to avoid the stock, the out of a stock, they can increase more profit as well. Then it also support for growth of a business basically. So a company grow, right? As the company grow, so more store and more data, so data warehouse can easily scale up and still keep everything organized. So meaning that let's suppose a supermarket can open 20 new store. So without a data warehouse, think it become a very messy for them. So because the data warehouse is already available, so new store can be added very easily. So report can be a very fast and reliable. So these are the kind of a very benefit of a data warehouse. So think about so in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say, or in a simple words, it's all in one storage. Your answer get a very fasted. Manager can get the instant sales data. It also clean that data. It's a time saving, and it's a better for the planning. It predict the future, and easy to grow, and it serves the customer very easily. So that's the reason data warehouse are very key information for management to provide. So in a nutshell, so if we have a data warehouse, so everything is organized into a one place. It can be labeled and easy to find, where we are making a very smart decision. So this will help the organization to save the time. It reduce the mistake and help to make a very smart or better decision for a business. So any questions?
No.
So basically all are related. So basic now let's move. If what are the benefit? Yeah, so this is I just mentioned. So all data in a all data in a one place, right? So basically, if you look at a data warehouse, is a well organized kind of a library for a company for a information. Instead of storing information in all over the places, if it can also help you to store the data in a one place. So as I given the example of a fresh mart, or the supermarket, where can collect the data. Supermarket can collect the data from a different store. So it has stored the data in a one places, so that manager don't have to be check on different system. Then second is faster and better decision making. So what that means that uh, a data warehouse can get your reports, I would say, or chats or dashboard within a fraction of a second, instead of asking different store or waiting for the reports or manual rechecking by itself by a manager. It can could be take a decision very fast, or you can see the reports very quickly. And to take a business decision, what to order on which time. And it improve your data quality and accuracy. So basically, when you get the data from a source system, right, there could be uh, s- some duplicates records are there. Some dates formats are different. Some store are using some YYMMDD format, some are using MMD YYDD format. So these kind of fixes can be or quality issue can be handled within a data warehouse. And it's a time saving for the employees. So meaning that employee don't waste their time to gather the data manually from a different system, or sending endless emails to get the reports, or instead asking for a IT guy to run some kind of a weekly reports. And a store manager can open the dashboard and see herself within a 10 second. So this is the time saving for our employees. It helps the management to predict the future, what I should order at what time, so that the historical data we can predict the future. And it also support for a business growth. If I open a new store, it can be easily a scale up. So these kind of benefits of a data warehouse. So if there are certain benefit, there are also challenges as well for a data warehouse. Because why? Because it's a very costly as well. So how I relate this one uh, into the challenges one. So every, as I mentioned, it's a very costly, right? Every organization or a small organization cannot be going to be afford data. So it's a very expensive, meaning that building a data warehouse is like a you're constructing a big and high tech storage facility. So it need powerful computers, your software, and very skilled worker as well. So example, a small business might struggle to offer the server and expert needed, just like a small shop cannot afford a massive warehouse. So it's a very costly. So every company or a small company cannot afford it, because it required a storage facility. It also required n number of softwares. It also required your skilled worker as well. Other is data quality issue, garbage in and garbage out, meaning that if a data going into a data warehouse is messy, duplicates or error or missing information, the reports can be unreliable. So example, if some sales records say, as I mentioned, let's say somebody has a store send the data in a NY for a new walker, and some other system say completely spill the new walker. The data warehouse might count them as a two different state, leading to a which leading to a wrong conclusion or wrong information. Then it should be a it's very it is complex to set up. So combining data from a different sources, like sales or marketing data or customer service data, is very tricky, because each system has stored different data differently. So example, imagine think about uh, trying to merge handwritten notes or Excel file and the text file into a one perfect report. It will take time, right? So meaning that it is very complex to set up. And the second is a slow updates, that not a real time data. So data warehouse often update in a batch. It could be your night every night. So the decisions are based on slightly old data. So example, if a store if a store a data warehouse updated sales data only at midnight, the manager would not know what about a sudden afternoon rush until the next day, right? So but basically in data warehouse we cannot store the real time data. And as I just mentioned, it is very hard to change. So once the data warehouse is designed for a certain type of a report, by adding a new data sources or changing the structure can be a very difficult over here. So example, if a company initially track only a sales by a reason, but later if company want to sales by age group, this might can be done, but it require a lot of major redesign of the system. So that's the reason it is very hard to change. It can change, but it requires a lot of effort to be the redesign, even for a single kind of a labeling name change in the attribute. It should be think about n number of a time. So that meaning that it's very hard to change in the data warehouse. And it should be third is a security risks, meaning as it has store all the company data in a one place is make a bigger target for a hackers. For example, let's suppose if a bank data warehouse get hacked, the customer account, loans and transaction could all be exposed, and it is very difficult, and it is very difficult situation then. So you require very skilled people. That means managing a warehouse is like flying a plane. You need a trained professional or trained data engineer or data analyst. And a small businesses might not have a data team, making it hard to maintain the data warehouse properly. And the last point is the performance issue, because we have storing the data warehouse too much data. So as more data get added, queries can be slowed down. For example, let's say a retail a chain with 10 years of sales data might find that a report might take for a minute to generate instead of a second, because we have a very huge volume of data. So it sometimes it also you face the performance issues. So these are the key challenges of the data warehouse. So because it takes time and money to set up, it's someone misfile a document, you cannot find it when it is needed. Adding a new category might require rearranging everything. So that means it's very complex to set up and it's very hard to change. If someone steal the cabinet, all your private info is exposed. That means security, there's a high risk of a security. So despite of these these challenges, a well built data warehouse are extremely valuable. It just need careful planning and maintenance. So these are the key challenges, and but it can be it cannot be manageable. It can be manageable, I would say, but a smaller it can be. Data warehouse is only taken care by the not a very a small firm. It should be big firm, because it requires huge amount of investment from the company. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay, so let's cover this one. Okay, now let's move to data lake. Yeah. So let me give up some minute. Let me take a glass of water, right? And then I will be back. Okay. Are you able to see my screen, or I stop it? Hello.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, we are.
Okay. Okay, let us start. Let us start with data lake. You know, what is data lake? You guys are, maybe you can explain me. I think you hear a lot of these things. Data lake. By seeing this, this slide, you can also think about it a little bit. Little, so think like data lake is like a real lake, right? A big body of a water where a different rivers, stream, and rain all fall into it. The water in the lake can be clean, muddy, deep, and shallow, and all kind. So it's just collecting everything. So now you can replace this water with data, right? So a data lake is a huge storage system where you can dump all kind of a data. Just like lake collect all kind of a water, it store raw data, meaning data, that means it's a stored a structured data. A structure means row and column data. It can structure on semi-structured data. It could be your XML file, it could be your JSON file, or data from EDI system. EDI means your SAP generated some EDI XML data, some logs, and kind of a unstructured data should be a media file, image, audio, video, image, document, PDF, everything, it can store that data. So it means that data like store raw data, meaning data has not be clean or organized or processed yet. It can hold a structured data like tables in an Excel, semi structured data, like JSON or XML, and unstructured data like videos, PDF, images, or email. Now, why we need data lake? Data lake is, it can store very massive amount of data. Now the question is come to your mind, if data lake is there, then why we need a data warehouse, right? That is also come, but we can see this into a more detail. What is the benefit of using the, first of all, it is cheaper. As I mentioned in the previous slide, to maintain a data warehouse is a very high costly and costly. Compared to the costing, data lake is a very cheaper. This is one of the very benefit. And in second is, I just mentioned, it has store everything, right? It has store raw data, which is unfiltered data. But data warehouse can store only clean data or processed data. So these are the two benefit just I mentioned. So yeah, so how in ADLS, right? There are different data store in Azure. So let's me think about only talk about Azure only. So in Azure, there are two flavors two flavors of data store. One is a blob storage, and other is a ADLS data lake Gen 2. Earlier it was a Gen 1 version. Now in recent, not recent, I think a few years back, they introduced data lake Gen 2. So what is the advantage of data lake Gen 2? It has stored the data in a hierarchical way, and it has stored all data, all kind of a data. You can store a delta lake there to create, we can create some kind of a external table in the delta in the ADLS as well. So let me explain how data lake is work. So basically, there is, first, when you work on a Azure portal, right? So there is a, you need to create some kind of a storage. A storage means it should be your ADLS. Inside your storage name, there should be a containers. In, so each containers, let's say for example, how it is work. So this is my entire ADLS. This is my ADLS. So what it can do, it then, and inside ADLS, it can create the containers. Basically, this is container one, or you can say this is, it is a container. Container, let's say we name as a raw. We can keep the raw data over here. And let's say we can create a other container. We name it as a refined layer. Container raw layer, refined layer, and this is called a process layer. Process layer, right? And somebody has mentioned the name bronze, silver, or gold. So basically what happened in the entire storage, we can create a one storage. This is a storage we need to provision in Azure cloud. If you are in Azure, you should be something in ADLS. If you have a AWS, it should be your S3 bucket. So basically we are focusing on the Azure only. So basically once you create your storage, then we need to create a container, right? So basically if you think about this architecture, this architecture, so basically instead of this, so we have a different source system. Think about it's a different source system. And before I'm moving this data to the data warehouse, so what I'm telling is that in data warehouse we can store only clean data, right, or process data. So now what happened in real world, so I have a different source system, right? Now if I cut this one, so let me cut this one. If I'm able to paste it here. So let's suppose these are my source system. I have a ERP system, I have an operation system, I have a CRM, SQL, and my flat files. So all I want, this data should be moved in my container as is, right? It should be moved to if it is a one over here, it should be stored in a one. And I want this should be stored in, you can define like it should be CSV format. So ideally in project we store these data into a Parquet format, because it occupies less space, and there are, it can also intact your schema information. That's the reason we are keeping in most of the companies stored in a Parquet format. But you can store the data in different other format as well. So first there is the one ETL tool is there. It could be your somebody can use Azure Data Factory, somebody can use uh, Databricks as well, a Spark to extract all this data into a raw. And once it is getting stored into the raw, then there's a called a ETL tool over here, right? This is a ETL tool is there. ETL tool or data factory is somebody can use to extract this data over here. After that, then you need to clean this data, massage this data, or refine this data. That means there is somebody can use ADF as well over here, depending upon your need. And if you require like too many joins you need to perform, you have to perform very complex type of a transformation, which is cannot be handled in the ETL. Then we come into a picture of Databricks where we write a Spark notebook to clean these data. But a Spark is also very costly, so we can we if it is a fit for your business use case, then only we can use a Spark. Otherwise, if all those transformation are handled in the ADF pipeline, then only you can go for a ADF. Because in ADF these days, it is ADF is also come up with the feature called a data flow, and data flow which is also running on a Spark cluster behind the scene. But there are certain limitation of a data flow. That means it cannot be provided use the flexible way. It cannot, you can write any code, you just and drag and drop. But certain information you cannot be performed, like merge is you cannot be performed in a data flow. This is a limitation of a data flow. Data flow you cannot be connected with the on-premises system. If any of your on data is coming from the on-premises, then data flow should not be able to connect it. This is the another limitation of a data flow. But yeah, so this is a requirement. Then you have a refined layer, meaning that from the raw we data will be need to the refined layer. This is again a one container. That means in ADLS we can create a three different container. So meaning like this is your data lake. in data lake, this is my kind of a pond or kind of a river. So where a small ponds are get connected. So this is the meaning. So it can store any of the data, like it's a structured data, XML data, semi-structured data, or kind of a unstructured data as well. So once the data, if it is a structure, unstructured or data, it is stored in a raw format. Then we need to refine this data using some of the ETL tool or data Spark notebook. Once the data is get refined, then if it is required, move the data into a process layer, or if required, sometime company can ask us to move this data into some kind of a database, relational database, and then finally move this data to the data warehouse. That means after the data is get processed. That means process means this is a produce layer. That means data is get processed, data is get clean, data is get approved. So once it get approved, these data we can move finally to the data warehouse. So basically historical data we can move, and when we do the next month, or next job run, so these data can be override. These data can be override as per the requirement, because this data the clean data will be stored in the data warehouse as well. So that's the reason the data can be wiped out for the next batch run. So meaning over here is I'm trying to say that in the this is a data lake. In the data lake you can store all three format of a data: a structured data as well, unstructured data as well, and completely and semi-structured data as well. So if you have a store that data in a structure, you can see this data easily by creating by creating the external table, because Databricks or Snaps notebook has some features. You can easily extract this data similar like a row and columnar format. If you store that data in Parquet or CSV format, you can still view it by using the external table concept. But when you have a data like let's say XML data or JSON data, these are the semi-structured data. So where you write required kind of some kind of a transformation to convert this semi-structured data into a structured data before you can move this data into your process layered or your data warehouse table. So because data warehouse, you can store the only the structured data, not a semi-structured data or the unstructured data. So this is what it is in typical industry that we are using. This is also called a medallion architecture. So where we have a three layers, somebody called as a bronze, silver, and gold layer, somebody called as a raw or refined or process layer. This is somebody can use as a ADLS to store the data depending upon the company choice, depending upon the company is able to have a budget to store the data into a data warehouse or not. That it also matters this one. So that's the reason, as I mentioned, this data warehouse is something in a bigger industry or bigger firm can afford it. A small industry, I hadn't see that it can maintain the data warehouse. And finally, this data can be move for your Power BI report, or consumed by some your data scientists to predict some kind of analysis. It give the report to a management to take a very smart decision. So these kind of features can we can get it. Any question with this?
So, Rajiv, ADLS is a service in Azure.
Yes, it's a storage services in Azure.
Okay. And initially, we have a data source. So when we save data in like row layer, so it is necessary or like to store data in Parquet format or ORC. as you
No,
suggest?
it's not it's a best practices. It's best practices.
Okay.
It's best practice to store that data into a one area, and then you can start. That means your data sources could be your on could be your cloud to cloud movement. It could be your on premises, right? It could be your some FTP server or SFTP server. It could be your somewhere or your uh, somewhere of your a SharePoint, somewhere of your one drive data. It could be anything, right? So if you have a multiple sources, right? I have a data for ERP, I have a data for CRM, I have a data for relational database, some flat files. So it is always better these data can be moved into a one come to the cloud first in one area. Then I can once it is come to my area in cloud, then I can do anything, right? What I want to perform. So that but means here we can store this data as is, where we cannot be change any kind of any transformation we will do in the raw layer. The transformation is done in the refined layer. We just extract this data. We just extract this data, kind of meaning that this is my pond. Think like this is a pond. This is the pond, or this is a river. In the river, I just river is connected with multiple pond. So this is the kind of a pond, so that I can bring all this. The flow of the water is coming to my river. So you
And
think like
uh, Rajiv, where we implement business logic is like after row layer or refined layer.
the business logic you need to be performed after row layer.
Okay, so refined layer will also work as process layer if we perform business logic over there.
Yeah, you can also perform. Yeah, but yes, but sometimes this is also clean data, right? This is a clean data, but there are certain this is a business rules you can perform here.
Yeah.
Your BR. So BR is something, some BR can be performed here, and some BR you can perform after the refined layer as per your requirement. There are n number of BRs. So some BRs are performed here, and after that their data is refined. So this is the another BR I need to implement after this refinement, after this refined data, that is also you can perform over here. So
Okay, process
basically,
layer will be end layer for with
yeah, so basically what happened, this is also a refined data. So no, there are process data. It means some tool, right? Let's say Power BI. Power BI can able to generate the report from a Parquet file itself. So it can connect with the. It don't require a structured data. So what I did, I can create a process layer for some of my consumer, right, who can extract this data from a process layer itself. So I store this data into a structured data in a data warehouse, which I can able to save the cost. This is the requirement it's come from. But there are certain consumer, right, who want us to give the data uh, in a structured format, or requirement is okay. So one consumer asks you to give me data on a Parquet format, other consumer asks you to give me data in a JSON format, and third consumer asks you to give me this data in a XML format. Then how can you handle this situation? So basically what happened after this, depending upon your consumer requirement, right, I keep the process layer. That's the reason I keep the process layer or the gold layer. So as per the consumer requirement, I can store this data. Or there are also certain cases I cannot be this data, but there are certain sensitive or PIL date columns, right, where I could not be exposed to the my consumer. So basically, there should be a data sharing agreement. What data you need, you cannot be share all this information to your consumer, right? There are certain restrictions. The data which they are looking for, I can send only those data. So that's the reason the process layer should be implemented. what the agreement between consumer and the core team. So that data should be present in the process layer, should not be all data. And what format they want to see the data, that is also we can move to the present layer. So that's the reason process layer or gold layer is required.
Okay, thanks.
We
Yes.
just need more clarity on the Parquet format. So,
Yes. So
and
Parquet
by
format.
default, is the data stored in the so by default, Azure Synapse stores the data in the Parquet format or what? So, we need a bit clarity on that.
See, Parquet format, that is the big advantage of Parquet format. It can handle the data. It handle the schema internally, right? So it's not by default, right? It's come. So the best practice to store the data in a Parquet format is that when you write this data, the performance is much better compared to the other format. So this is a requirement Microsoft has recommended, that okay, when you store this data, store in a Parquet format, so your performance is get improved because it is stored in a Commler wise format. So we will see in when we touch base the Spark why Parquet format is recommended. So just for mention over here, it is a best practice to store this data in your storage in a Parquet format. It's not like that only always, but some company want, okay, I don't want to store in a Parquet format, because let's suppose the other requirement is, now let's suppose you have a very huge amount of data, right? Let's say you have a 5 terabyte of data. Can you imagine if you can store the 5 terabyte of data in a CSV file or XML file? It cannot, it very difficult, right? So other advantage of Parquet file is that it maintain the acid property. That means you can also atomic durability, isolation, right, and consistent. And also you can partition this data. What means partitioning means you can create a bucket, right? So let's suppose I have a 5 terabyte of data for last 20 years. So what I can do, I can create a partition. I can creating a bucket for each year. So meaning, let me explain what happened. This is my some data. This is my 20 years data.
Yeah, and
20
in the
years.
Synapse, and like how the data is stored in the Synapse, is it Parquet format or what by default?
Synapse. See, Synapse is Synapse. There are two flavor of Synapse. So what format it can store it depending upon your requirement, what you want. So Synapse also give you the ADLS to store the data. Synapse also give you the data warehouse to store the data. So if you store in a ADLS, you can store in a Parquet format. If you want to store your data in a Synapse SQL delegated pool, you can store in a data warehouse, which is a structured data in a row and column format. So Snap have store the data in both the format. But it depend upon what requirement you have, what is your requirement. So Snaps is a two flavor, right? So earlier Snaps, before Snaps, there is called a SQL data warehouse. So that is now called as a SQL delegated pool. So if you want to use SQL delegated pool, it will be behave like a same SQL data warehouse. Another Microsoft had introduced is that okay, it can bring all those services into a one umbrella, meaning that Snaps, this Snaps pipeline. That means that work like a same as a data factory pipeline. So where you have a connector, link services, integration, runtime. Second, Snaps is also a Snaps notebook, right? So this is a Microsoft product. So instead of using Databricks, Database is open source. You can also write your Spark code into a Snaps notebook. Then Synapse has also ADLS, right? That it can store that data in whatever the format you want to store. It should be a Parquet, Avro, ORC, CSV, XML, JSON. Second, it can also give you the data warehouse features. You can store this data in a data warehouse. Third, I think Power BI report it should not be integrated in the next version. After Snap, there is the Microsoft introduce a new advanced version is which is currently in market, that is called a Fabric. So that is called a unified data lake, one lake. So everything into a one lake. So when it is come to a one lake, everything should be stored in a Parquet format. That is the current trend, which is the current which in Microsoft Fabric, but not in Synapse. Synapse give you the two flavor to store that data in ADLS, that is stored in a Parquet format. It also give you the feature of to store the data in a SQL dedicated pool, which is a structured data. So it has stored the data both in a row and column format or tabular format.
Rajiv, ADF is database service. Like, I don't
No, no,
know.
no. ADF is not a database service. ADF is a kind of a ETL tool.
Okay.
It's a ETL tool where you can extract this data. You can write a small kind of a transformation, then you can load this data. So, like, if you think about, if you hear that in Microsoft earlier before ADF, it's called SQL Server Integration Services (SSIS). Then in IBM, you have IBM Data Stage, and then you think about Talent, right? Talent is earlier used in big data. Then Informatica. So these are the ETL tool. So like that, ADF has a ETL tool, and it's kind of a more and drag and drop features, and it has almost every connectors are available. So ADF can extract this data from on premises. ADF can able to extract the data from the cloud. It can also store the data from the REST API as well. So it will bring you a lot of the flexibility to extract that data if you have a different data sources.
Okay, actually, I am from full stack domain, so I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes,
So it's an ETL tool. You think about ADF is an ETL tool, similar like SSIS is an advanced version of SSIS. Like Talent is also ETL tool. It's just a ETL tool where you can extract this data from your source system.
and in AWS, I think Redshift. Uh,
No, in AWS you have a glue
okay.
where you can call as a data pipeline.
Uh, in this diagram, we have performed data pipeline over here, or we will like.
Yeah, so basically we are building a ADF pipeline. You can call as a data pipeline as well, but in Azure it is called as a ADF pipeline.
Okay, we have performed in diagram, or we will cover it later.
We we will show that the real time how we can extract this data in a real time as well in a demo.
Okay, okay.
So basically, let me give you if I have more advanced version. Uh, 1 minute. If you want, you can also try this one. This is a Fabric. It's not a ADF, but it's behave same. Uh, Let me go to my workspace. Okay. That if I have any kind of a ADF, I will show you. But this is not we can follow. This is a latest one. Let me if I have some pipeline. Let me open this one. What happened? I have some free. This is a free version, right? So sometime it not open for me. One minute. This is one like work. The link is not there. So let me create a new item. Data pipeline. Okay, not this one. Uh, Data flow. Yeah, yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Let's close the data flow. Okay. Not new item. Yeah. So this is the pipeline. I just drag something. Let's suppose add to canvas. Yeah. So this is a kind of a similar as a ADF, but in ADF you have a different UI. So this is the advanced version. So these are the ETL tool basically. So basically, if you can link this one, right? Let's suppose uh, I have this system, right? Let's suppose ERP system where I have it is stored in somewhere in your database in the cloud, right? So what I need to do, I can drag up first of all a copy data activity, right? So in copy data activity, so I have a source. Source means these are my sources. Let's suppose my source is a ERP system, any of the relational database. So what I need to do, this is my source, and I try to create some kind of a connection. I can see, okay, these data are on my own SQL server, these data are my ADLS, or these data on my on-premises, or in some FTP, or whatever it is, right? So I can just establish a connection over here first. So let me give you, if I have some on-premises, okay, it is not as get connected. Right, let's suppose this is my local SQL databases. I just try to connect it, and I have some table, right? I can see this table information. If I want something very specific information, I write the query. What I want to, let's suppose some table information. I let's say customer table. I select the customer table over here. So that I am ready with my source connection. Basically, I'm ready with my this connection, if of the CRM system or ERP system. Then where I need to store, land this data or park this data. So if you can relate this one into a picture, so I want to first store this data into a raw layer, right? So this is my ADLS, right? I just want to store this data into a ADLS. Then you can see container, right? So in this ADLS, I have a 3 different container. In this container, I select, okay, this is my, I give the name, this is my row container. In container, in what directory I want to store. So basically, when you do, if I know this is running on a daily basis or weekly basis, so basically we can create this a directory with the current timestamp date, right? Inside that, we can just pass this file name. What file naming convention should be there? So this is the where that we can store uh, the naming convention. We can store the file, and then after this you can schedule data. So there are certain triggers are available in ADF, that is called a the 3 triggers are basically are available. One is a scheduled one, then other is a trembling window, and third one is a event based. So let's suppose you want to run this like as nightly job. That means every night you want to extract this data. You can schedule data a certain point of a time. It will be automatically executed, and then it will store this data in your raw format. So this is your ETL, that you have to perform your ETL to extract this data from here. Like this, if you have this is a, when you have a data in a structure, we use copy data activity, right? Um, then if you have there are multiple activities are there. So these are the activities are there. Then we have a data flow. So in ADF, right? In ADF, you don't have a feature to connect with the on-premises, but in Fabric, Microsoft has upgrade this feature to connect this data flow with the on-premises data as well. Then you have a notebook. So this is a Fabric notebook. That means you write some kind of a Spark, right? A Spark, and you want to run those Spark notebook. That means meaning that after that data is stored, when I write this, I want to clean this data. That means I want to, so this, let's suppose after I run the copy data, right? After the success of it, I want to run this notebook. So this notebook, what will be do? It will be refine this data and store in the refined location. So this logic I can write in my Spark notebook, and I just call. I also need an orchestration, right, to run this notebook. So for orchestration, I use ADF pipeline. So after copying this data, I want to clean this data. After the cleaning this data, if there are no transformation is required, I can use copy data activity. If little transformation is required, somebody has asked question, I can again create a one notebook. After this, on success of this, I can just run one more notebook, third notebook, to store this data into the process layer, or directly write this data into my data warehouse. So this is what we are doing across the industry. So this is the ETL tool. Basically, we will see more on this one, but this is the ETL tool. So we have ETL tool, we have a activity. These are the activity: copy data, data flow, notebook, get metadata, lookup. These are the activity, and depending upon your need, you can use this activity. We see this one in a real time as well when we touch base the ADF pipeline. So here you can see this is the Databricks notebook, you can also call it. So this is the Fabric notebook, which is a Microsoft notebook. And this is also, you can extract this data somewhere from your Outlook as well. So these are the new things it is added in this in the Fabric. Clear?
Clear.
Yeah, so this is a trial version. I would say you can also keep trying. So If you get a, like, if you can, I would say, try to, use the EDF pipeline, like provision the EDF pipeline, use the subscription, but just it will be, deduct 1 rupees from your credit card, then you have a provision. You, once you work, delete it, so that it will be, you can use it, regularly, if you have a 2 3 different card. But this one, right, a data fabric, it should not be, I use this one almost for a 1.5 years, because when it is launched, I was, since from them I was using that, and it was like, it was keep updating for me, so I never it get expired for me. So you can also try your, do some kind of hands-on with if you can provision your fabric as well. Some kind of a ETL tool can, you can also, we can use that. You can also write notebook over here. So just try to, use it. This is a free version. This is a free of cost. You didn't need to pay any single rupees. So you can also try to use that. Let's use that, basically. It's good for you.
And ADF is different, and Fabric
No,
is
it's not a different. It's not a different. It's similar as this. Similar as this. This is advanced version of ADF. You, in ADF, you can also, the UI should be a change, right? The UI should be a change. This is a different ADI, but all these features you can find in the ADF as same as well. So as I mentioned, right, in ADF, if you can use data flow, you cannot be connected with on-premises system. Now, if we are connect, if I use data flow over here, this activity, I can able to connect with the on-premises system.
okay. In syllabus, we will cover both, like Fabric or ADF.
No. This is what they just somebody is asked some question to me. Then I just show me, because it is I have in my computer.
Okay.
But it's a same similar. These are just UI change, but everything feature should be the same.
Okay.
You cannot find all the features in ADF. Whatever you find, you cannot see Outlook as activity. You cannot see Teams as activity. You cannot see this Fabric notebook here. You can see Azure, and what are the others? Let me. And rest, I think you can see everything. So rest everything should be, you can see. These are the activity. You can see everything. But the little bit UI has to be changed. So here it's a ADI pipeline. Here the name is a data pipeline, but all the features are same.
And only difference is like in ADF, we are unable to connect on-premise data, and Fabric we are able to connect.
No. It's not like what I. No. This is what I'm saying. In ADF, we also have a data flow, right? In data flow, there the capability of connecting with on-premises is not supported, right? But in Fabric, data flow can be able to connect with the on-premises. This is the number one. But behind the scene, data flow is also running on your Spark cluster. When you trigger the data flow, it will spin up your cluster. It can also, you can choose, give your cluster sizing, what type of work you need to perform. It's a normal ETL work or kind of a massive amount of a transformation. You can, choose your cluster configuration depending upon your requirement, and then it will cost you as well. How it is cost for the Spark cluster? Similarly, you have to be pay for it.
Okay, clear.
Yeah, so this is, we can see later, but if you want to try, you can try with the trial version of it. This is a free of cost for you. Okay, and I think we will cover this. So we will next cover in the next topic all this. So this is number one is get completed for you. Okay. So architecture of a data lake. Basically, we already touched with the architecture. So similarly, this is the architecture of a data lake basically, where you have a storage, data source, data ingestion. But we will see one more time with a complete, full, a good architecture diagram of the architecture, and then we can see what is the benefit. I can we also touch base and see also say what are the challenges of a data lake, use case. Then finally we can see data warehouse. So we also touch base with some few points on the data warehouse for today and data lake as well. As I just mentioned, it's a cheaper. Data lake is much cheaper compared to data warehouse. Data lake can store all kind of a data, structured data, semi-structured data, and unstructured data. Data warehouse can only store the structured data. uh, Data warehouse can store only the clean data or processed data, but data lake can be stored as unclean data, right? This is a few already we touch base, but we can also touch base in the next session
Uh,
if we.
Rajiv, last class was cancelled. So will we cover in weekdays or
Last class, I will let you
yes,
know maybe. Last class, yeah, yesterday one, right? You are talking
yes,
about.
yeah.
Yeah, yesterday actually what happened, I was not reached to my home. Today morning I reached to my home. I was doing some party with my friends, so I was not unable to reach. So that's the reason I was didn't take it, and sorry that I didn't informed. It was so maybe I can check with if it is possible. Then we can cover some of the weekdays.
Yeah,
Um,
please, if possible.
because Tuesday not possible, Wednesday is also not possible. This is the Tuesday I am going to office. Monday is very hectic day for me. Uh, I can see Thursday if I can make it, then I will be let you know.
Okay.
So then, thank you very much. Then
Thank you so much.
Thanks.